Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Random Redshirt podcast. I am one of the hosts, Zach, and the other host, as always, is Chris. What's up, bro?
Hello, my dear friend Zach. Hello, everyone. Dan, hello, and thank you so much. We're thrilled. It is wonderful to have you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being with us today. It's going to be awesome.
Happy to be back, guys.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. For those of you watching or listening all over the globe and the interwebs, we very much appreciate that. If you have been watching us for long enough, you know Dan has been on with us before, and we are thrilled to have him back on for a very, very awesome episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. This is season 3, episode 3, entitled Shuttle to Kenfori, written by Onitra Johnson and Bill Wolkoff. Did I say his name right?
Wolkoff.
Wolkoff, there you go. Yeah. And directed by, of course, yours truly, Dan Liu. You may have seen his name on screen before in Strange New Worlds for the season 1 episode Memento Mori or the season 2 episode Lost in Translation. And we were just chatting about this a few minutes ago, but Dan, it seems pretty obvious as to why they brought you back for this particular episode because it kind of has something to do with something else you've directed before.
Yeah, I've had a started my scripted career in Los Angeles on The Walking Dead. So it kind of makes sense to do a zombie episode. It's interesting because like when you do one of these things, there's always so much time constraints in TV. So I think part of it is just like finding the most efficient pairing with the scripts. And every year they ask me like, do you want to do a comedy episode? And I'm like, no. So whatever else they give me, I'm down to do.
Well, this was very fitting, and I will tell you that I'm glad they didn't choose somebody else to do this episode because your background on Walking Dead certainly came through on this, and I think that really helped to not make this a cheesy or a campy type of a zombie type of thing. It made it intense. It made it, there was a lot of fear, a lot of emotion in this, which definitely came out on screen. So, I just got to say, first and foremost, bravo. My hat's off to you, Dan, for another amazing Strange New World episode that you have directed.
Thanks, Zach.
Yeah, this episode was awesome. There was such a sense of urgency in the combining of zombies, of Gorn nests, of the mind meld, of the Klingons. You had this intersection of so many like cool things in this episode, and it was so tight and efficient, and just I think great. You went right into it, and I think the pacing was great, Dan. Just outstanding.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, it's interesting where in television, you want to be under 60 minutes. So even if we sometimes feel like, oh, is that too long? Then we start cutting things back and you find that happy medium. And I think what's great about this show in particular is its episodic nature kind of like lets you be, in that you can be a little quicker and it won't feel too choppy usually. So it's a fun thing to do.
Yeah, I don't feel like this episode was it didn't feel rushed or choppy at all. It felt very intentional. There was great cuts between the scenes on Kenfori with Pike and Mbenga and the zombie Vulcans and humans, and scenes on the Enterprise with Una, with Ortegas and the crew. It just felt like a very well flowing story, well cut story, especially because, like you said, Chris, I mean, there was a lot going on in this episode. It wasn't just, oh, they're down on the planet fighting, zombies. There was a lot of layers to this and a lot of various story arcs all coming to head.
I mean, I think the goal with especially the middle episodes each season is to really push those character stories forward and to set up where they can come to a head. And for this one, we have multiple characters. You have like Batel being a major character being affected by the Chimera flowers, and you have Mbenga obviously dealing with all the war Klingon stuff, and then you have Ortegas dealing with all that she's been dealing with, and then you still have Pike, the captain. And what's great is, I didn't get to work with Anson as much in season 2 because of the new baby. So in
Mm.
season 3, this was like one of the first times we got to really like deep dive into drama together. And I think it was very rewarding and satisfying just trying different things in some of those bigger dramatic scenes with him.
And Dan, that's your baby?
I have a baby.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, yeah. Congratulations. Yeah, yeah.
No, but Anson had his baby.
Oh, his baby. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, his first baby. He just had one, but his
I was gonna
first
say he just
baby,
had a second one, right?
yeah, his first one was right before season two. So, I think the intention was he wasn't in the beginning of season
Mm.
two as much, because of that.
Mm,
And it's great. I think that the writers and everyone got to have him have time with his baby. The flip side is because I was directing it, I didn't get to work with him as much in season two, is what I meant.
yeah. Can we go back to season two for just a second, Dan? With
Yeah.
Lost in Translation, you got a chance to direct an episode that brought back on this podcast a very favorite character, which is Hemmer. And I was curious what that was like working with Bruce and having him back on the set for Lost in Translation after his character dying off from the Gorn, which seems to be a common thread throughout Strange New Worlds with the Gorn. But maybe talk about what that was like having Bruce back on set.
Well, I mean, every time you have an actor come back in that they haven't really worked with their fellow actors for a while because of, they were killed off in a previous season, there's a lot of tears and hugs and a lot of like gratitude, I think, just on set when they're there because you never know when people come and go, and it's always like so much joy to see them back and working again. And Zombie Hammer was pretty cool, but also with Bruce, there's like because he has a sight disability, there's always like something special about like what he can do. Like, he feels out the space and then he walks it and then he's on. He hits his marks and everything. And it's just sometimes, normal actors have trouble hitting their marks. But because of his process, as soon as the cameras are rolling, he knows where to go and he
Mm,
already mapped it out in his head. So it's actually quite fun. Although in this episode, he was mainly standing around in season two.
yeah.
It was still great to have him because I remember in season one, we had some scenes and a little walk and talk with um, Uhura and him, and it was just great to establish that. And so it was sad to see him go, but great to have him back for an episode, and then great to see him as one of the Klingon boy band people. That it wasn't my episode, but it was fun seeing him on there.
That was awesome.
Yeah,
That really was.
that was so awesome.
All right, Chris, you ready to jump into this? Shuttle to Kenfori, an amazing episode. We're certainly going to have to add this episode to our list of must-watch episodes for science fiction near Halloween. So, for
Yeah,
those of you watching or listening, you might remember that series. Dan, for you, we did a Halloween series last year where we mentioned episodes and movies in science fiction that pair great with that time of year. Of course, one of those episodes that we mentioned that I think reminded me quite a bit because we hadn't seen really zombies much in Star Trek was an episode from Enterprise called Impulse, where
Yeah.
we got zombie Vulcans. So, Chris, I think this is an episode we're going to have to add to our absolute must watch for Halloween.
we absolutely we absolutely must do that.
Yeah.
This is just fantastic, and it had a lot, it did have humor and jump scares at the same time. So this is going to be a wonderful one to
Yeah.
review at Halloween. But something that you said, Dan, earlier too about ex some of the mid episodes exploring the different backgrounds of the characters. When you said that, it just made me think because I'd been thinking about Mbenga. I was like, somehow you guys found a way to explore more about Mbenga in like a zombie cage. And so I thought that was like amazing that you guys did that. So
Well, I mean, like in close spaces with high stakes, I think always brings out great drama. And
yeah.
there's and those zombie cages we filmed on our AR well set. So,
Mhm.
there's definitely pros and cons of shooting on that set. But the pros for actors is they see it all, right? Because it's all there already. It's not a green screen. It's not like blue screen. Like,
Oh,
everything that you saw in those scenes
yeah.
was there while we were shooting. So, I mean, the only thing that wasn't there was the force field because that's a special effects. We can't actually create force fields. But
Uh,
yeah,
But if you
yeah.
could,
If we could, we would have tried really hard. But
yeah.
yeah, no. So I think like it can bring out that intensity really easily and just t take them to a place without having to imagine as much when they're faced in a green screen room.
Now the title is pretty like straightforward, like Shuttle to Confori. So like Dan, from your perspective, like any thoughts? Was that always going to be like as straightforward as that, or like was there thoughts about like what should we call this?
Well, I
This
know definitely there's been like, you see the internet talk about the Kenfori, uh,
hmm
and then definitely like the Train to Busan reference. I know our writers have seen that.
Yeah.
So it is like a straightforward, but also they always like to have like little inside meanings for themselves when they write it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, when we saw that, it told me like, yay, new planet, because that's the hope you get as a director for a Strange New Worlds episode is there's going to be a Strange New World.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess that makes sense, doesn't it? It's Star Trek Strange New World on a planet we're familiar with.
Yeah, one of the things that got me when I was thinking about the sense of urgency was Batel. And so right at the beginning of the episode, this is even before I think you do the opening credits, right at the beginning of the episodes, as Captain Pike is doing his log, then she's down there. Yeah, she's on the floor. And then I felt, just to let you know, like I felt like, oh, okay. Then I felt like, oh, I'm into it now. Like what's gonna happen? I was so invested like in the episode and what everyone was gonna do. So I thought that was a great like technique to do and to show us as an audience.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think there's like I don't know if it's because it goes by so fast. When he's looking at that room, you see her bags kind of packed too. So,
Yeah.
like that's like something we always try to tell the whole story, even if it's like such a short amount of time and limited amount of screen time. So it's like, what is happening with Batel? And then suddenly she's like passed out, and yeah, surprised she's not leaving.
Yeah. I when I saw her laying there because you can't see the whole body, which I think is also great because you're masking something, you're hiding it, and you're getting, at least from my vantage point, I'm like, okay, he's doing this because he's trying to hide something and he wants the audience to think and have their mind race. And if I'm way off on that, please correct me, of what happened to her, what's going on. My immediate thought was, uh-oh, did the Gorn baby start growing again? And maybe something popped out of her and they're not showing that because that it's going to be, I think it cuts there and then it goes to the opening credits. Is that when
No,
that?
it's her feet, and then he runs up to her,
That's
and then
right.
you see her passed out. So we do
Yeah.
reveal like, yeah,
Yeah,
but
but
there's
they
no blood or
you,
anything.
yeah, you do the reveal and then it's right after the reveal that's when it cuts to the
Yeah.
opening credits. So your mind's racing going, "Oh my gosh, what's happened to her? Like what could be the reason why she's on the floor?" And my first thought was maybe the Gorn babies are starting to grow again and something's doesn't look right in her body and then opening credits happen, you're like, "Okay, crap. Now I got to wait." Because you got to watch the opening credits in Strange New Worlds. The visuals and the music and everything, especially this season with some of the new stuff they added to the opening
hmm
credits, is just amazing.
Yeah, I mean it's like every time you see one of those places in the credits, it's you're just looking forward to when is that episode happening. So,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We had a Vulcan mind meld in this episode, which was really, really cool to do. Um, and any I, I I like this mind meld because there's some after Spock and Captain Batel like do the mind meld, like they're like, what was that? Right? They
mhm.
don't know what that was. And so how did that all like come together for you guys when you were creating that mind meld scene?
Well, generally, I think it's good to have like an idea in your head of how you want a mind meld to look. So
Yeah.
in season one, I storyboarded that I really liked the idea of like having half the person's face on one frame and then the next frame having half. So when Ethan was mind melding with Chrissy, they did it was like close up half the face, close up half the face, and then they went into that world inside her mind. So then with this one, I'm like, okay, so they both experience the same vision together and it's terrifying and they start screaming. So how can we kind of take that language and play with it even more? So then we had like a macro lens to get really up close in their face. We did the half still for just like one time, and then we combined it into like a split screen, I believe, and then had the vision of whatever that was, like, peeking through the empty parts of frame. So, I mean, what was tough was the actors were really screaming, and I would tell them like, don't use your voice because you don't want to lose it, but all of them get in character so much, and they do it, and they're screaming. I'm like, hot tea with honey for Ethan. Can we run some in? Like,
How many takes did you do on that mind meld? Because what we see on screen, I mean, Ethan is that scream seemed super. I mean, it was strong, it was powerful, and I could see how that could really wreck somebody's voice if he did it too many times.
yeah, I mean, we did. I think it was three different setups. One of the setups was six takes. That's where I started getting a little worried and
Wow.
made sure everyone had tea. But it's because the thing with moves and certain framings is there's so many aspects to it and so much teamwork that you want everything to be perfect or you want some variation. So usually you can't do it in one take.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And some of it is like also if they scream, then you're like, I need a longer scream. So,
Mhm.
or like, oh, sometimes it's like, just open your mouth for a long time and just don't actually scream. Because you'll cut it in at a certain point where it'll just be like very minimal, but it'll look like it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. I actually didn't what I liked about this mind meld was I actually didn't expect like Spock to scream and the mind meld to have like such a uh violent like it was violent at the end, right? So
Yeah, I mean,
there's
he
yeah.
gets affected
Yeah.
by, whatever it is in Batel. And essentially, we go into his POV in our Gorn vision, right? Like we've had
Hmm.
that
Mhm.
Gorn vision
Mhm.
before in a previous season in the Gorn episode. So we basically are saying he got some of that in his mind, and suddenly, things didn't seem like how a human would see them. And then he felt a threat and he pushed and really hard and sent gamble and he went flying across the room. And then, I love Jazz and in her character, Chapel, she just like stands up and smacks him out of it.
Yeah, that mind meld was so intense. And what I loved about it is it really captures the essence of what we as Star Trek fans have come to learn over the course of the franchises is that the emotional transfer between the participants of the mind meld, right? Like, we saw that in TNG where Picard mind melds with Sarek, and then all those emotions come out, even though it's not the same time. But in this, that emotion was instantaneous. And Chris, I don't know if this reminded you or not when we get the Gorn vision, which I thought was an awesome, awesome addition to that, Dan, where we see that from his point of view, and you see that Gorn vision. Very, very, very Predator vibes to me, which I loved. I absolutely loved that shot.
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of us grew up with Predator and Aliens, and I don't know if you remember this. There was a PC game like Predator versus Aliens, and you played as like you could also play as the Marines, and
Hmm.
like when you were playing as the Predator and Aliens, you could switch divisions, and I always thought that was such a great like way like tool between the different species.
Yeah,
So.
Mhm.
agreed.
So you bring up like Predator and Aliens, and I'm wondering like influences like you felt or subconsciously or consciously that you brought in. This is such a great episode, Dan, and so I think you should be just so proud of this, like as part of your like portfolio. Um, were there like other sci-fi like influences that you thought of that kind of influenced like how you were looking at this episode?
I think it's much more subconscious for me. Like some
Mhm.
episodes, season one, it was all these submarine movies of like the
Yeah.
big ones since, I don't know, the 40s. So like that was actually an actual influence. And then for this one, because I've worked on Walking Dead so much, I didn't really go and seek out like to get inspired by anything. As I read it, it just kind of came instinctively to me like
Yeah.
what I'd want it to look like. And even on, I think it was day one or day two, I started storyboarding with our storyboard artists. So, as soon as the words were like, I got the words on the page in my head, it was kind of like, let's off to the races. Like, let's build the place like in that highlights these frames, the flashlights and everything need to hit the walls here. and just like everything was pretty, I guess, they write the scripts so well that when you read it, you're like, oh, it looks like this.
Hmm.
So, you know, I don't think there was inherently a single like person or movie or TV series that influenced this episode, but definitely like all of the stuff like Ridley Scott, James Cameron, like
Ah,
Danny Boyle, all of those people that have dabbled in alien horror zombie stuff.
nice, nice. The zombies in here were pretty quick. They're fast zombies.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing with the tricky thing, and it's hard to buy that with phasers, zombies would be too much of a threat. So we wanted to
Ah,
overload them with faster zombies, more zombies. Even if you shoot the zombies, more are coming. How many more? What if you run out of energy in your phasers? Like,
mhm.
there's just too many. And so to do that, I think it was established early on, like they should be running. Like, the writers knew. They were like, well, if we had like walking zombies like classic Romero, like that's not gonna these guys have weapons and ways to get around that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was good thinking. And it made sense too that the Klingons would have their phasers, their disruptors, I should say, not phasers, disruptors
Yeah.
set on incinerate, and
Yeah.
just every time they shoot one, it just incinerates into thin air, right? Which makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense compared to the stun setting that Pike tells Mbenga to put his phaser on in the episode. I'm curious. So, with all of your time on Walking Dead, and now you get a zombie episode, which you mentioned you thought you'd left that part behind in your career, but here it comes again. Which of course, like I said before, I think there was no other choice for director for an episode like this than you. But I'm curious, how do you take an episode in this case in Star Trek and turn it into something that is not campy or hokey? It's not something where it's like, oh, characters are just running around making really bad choices and then they die, or they're running into things in order to make it more dramatic and more, upping the stakes, I guess you could say. How do you I guess capture that on screen?
Well, I think, the thing with Star Trek, it's always rooted in characters, ideals, and optimism. So, there are like lots of comedy Star Treks, like Lower Decks and stuff, where they play to the campiness in some of these situations.
Yeah.
But for me, I think it's really just being real in those characters' shoes. Like, how would they feel in this situation? How scared would they be or not scared? But how would they have to deal with that situation? And I think naturally, to me in my head, I wouldn't shoot something campy about it. I would just make it like feel feel like how it feels to be there.
Yeah. Definitely think that was captured for sure. Um, I found this episode interesting because uh, if you remember, Chris, from when we were doing season 2 of Strange New Worlds, and we got to, I want to say it was episode 9 or 10. I can't remember which, or maybe it was 8. Under the Cloak of War, where we meet Ambassador Dakra, who was the Butcher of Jagal, I believe, as he was known. And this is a continuation, or at least for Mbenga's story arc and development, this is a continuation of that. So I'm really curious, Dan. Did you go back and watch that episode as part of preparation for directing this one, knowing that there is a story continuation from that with Mbenga?
Oh, absolutely. I think like, you have to do your homework when you're coming into one of these. And I watched it all, before, but by the time we shot it, it was ages later.
Yeah.
Because also we were supposed to shoot the year before, and I was supposed to shoot in spring and use actual forests. But
Hmm.
because of
Oh.
the strikes in the winter, we had to essentially build all of our sets and make it not as outdoorsy because it was the dead of winter in Toronto.
Hmm.
So yeah, I watched that episode very religiously, and you're taking like such a great exploration of war trauma, and now you're suddenly the daughter comes, like what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dan, you said something great like a moment ago. I think that ties into this, characters and optimism and exploring it. in here. When we watched Mbenga, um, there was such I think Mbenga is for me it's very complex because there's such a Mbenga has this he has optimism too, and he has like a care of like of living things, like when we joked about like Pike using the word zombies, right? And there's a little bit of
Hmm.
humor there, and like Mbenga's like, don't use that word, trying to show respect for people. But then Mbenga, like at the end when he meets the daughter of the ambassador, it is a very, very personal like fight between the two, and
Hmm.
Mbenga is like acknowledging the monster like that's in him, right? And then you get the sense, I get the sense, and I think you did a great job portraying this with him that he's so multi-layered, but I think you still have this sense of ambiguity about him, and I wanted to get like your take about it because at the end of the episode, when there's this scene between Captain Pike and Mbenga, and like are you gonna turn me in? What happened there? Mbenga is questioning Captain Pike. We felt there's a little bit of ambiguity about like, did he really
Well, yeah, I mean, because
kill? Yeah, yeah.
even the actor, like when he, because we talked about it, and he voiced those lines in a way where he was phrasing it like a hypothetical,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And that's
Mhm.
totally on purpose because, he's feeling him out. He's not sure like what's going to happen, but he's also giving his captain a way out. It's
Yeah.
like this could have been the story. And the captain's like, you were held in like, knife point. Like, it's
Yeah.
like Pike just is so loyal and like loves his people. It's very different how I think Pike would think about it. But Mbenga, like, he I think there's so much compartmentalized like about him, and anytime bits seep out, then of course like some of that paranoia from war like will start like coming to the surface. But he tries to clamp it down, and at the end, like Pike says, you're just a man and you're my friend. And that's was such a lovely moment. I remember watching that take and I'm like, oh, that's like really great.
Yeah, the part where yeah, like you said, Dan, the part where he says, you're not a monster,
Uh,
Joseph. You're just a man.
mhm.
I think that was awesome because he's basically telling Mbenga, hey, you know, you're only human, right? There's not a monster in you. You're human. You make mistakes. You do things and you learn from them and you move on, right? And
Yeah.
so yeah, I thought that scene that was probably my favorite line in the whole episode was that line in particular that Pike says to Mbenga where he says, you're not a monster, Joseph. You're just a man, and you're my friend.
Oh,
But
and one thing that was cut for time is we started that scene with Mbenga wrapping Pike's leg, and his like pants was like all up, and like we had this like dressing that he was bandaging. So you missed the chance for some like Pike leg, but
well, we don't want to take the focus away from Pike's peak on top of his head with his hairdo there.
Oh, it was
That is,
very, yeah, the peak was very pronounced at the beginning of the episode. I was like, wow, it is very like, it's up there. Yeah.
yeah.
And it's very pointed peaks. It was cool.
I can't wait for like when the final season finishes and people can just sit the hairstylist down and like talk to them about the journey of the peak throughout the seasons and what is the storyline. Because everyone has the scripts, so each department or all has their goals, I think, of like, whatever they want to pitch and present for that character for the seasons. So, the hairstylist must be thinking like long term, like where does this take him and what do we do with his hair next?
Yeah. No
It's,
joke. I mean,
yeah.
by season five, he's gonna have like a faux hawk or something going on up here, right? I mean, something.
Yeah. It's integrated into the show now because I think even Captain Batel made the remark, right? Like, where are we going to put your hair products? So
Yeah.
that was awesome.
Yeah. That was really good. I really enjoyed that. So you mentioned before, Dan, that you didn't really get a chance to work much with Anson in season two. So I'm curious what it was like working with him in a significant amount here on this episode. I'm a huge fan of his before he became Captain Pike when he was Colin Bohannon on Hell on Wheels. I absolutely love that series, and he was so amazing and incredible as the lead for that show. So curious on your thoughts of finally getting a chance to work with him in more in depth.
Well, I mean, I think one could always tell when looking at previous seasons, like, even in the RPG episode in season 1, episode 8, when he was just playing the jester, right? Like, he has
Mm.
so much range, and I think he will give everything as long as he believes in the writing and what you're doing. So, it was extremely rewarding to me because it was like we could just go and try variations on multiple takes and he'll just go places. And then if you need to pull him back, he'll come back right back. He's not
Hmm.
afraid to just like flex his acting out there, which is great because there are some actors that can start inhibited and you have to bring it out of them. With Anson, it's like he'll go for it and he'll just keep going. And like you guys just play with it, build around it, and see what happens. And I think that's kind of the most fun part of directing is when you can really just play with it.
Hmm.
You can be so creative then. You can, I guess, take it in ways you never thought it would go before.
I mean, I think that's part of the things you have to do because otherwise you would always get what's expected.
Hmm.
And so when you can take it to somewhere, then you can judge. Like after seeing that take, both you, your producers, the actors, like you can all kind of think about it. It's like there was something there that was really interesting, or like, oh, I was wrong. Let's do something else. And but once in a while, quite often you do get something that you might start incorporating into other angles and things, and it might affect not just them, but their scene partner. So, that's part of like the magic of being on set, as they say. It's not all calculated, even though so much of what we do, especially with visual effects, is very calculated because
Yeah.
otherwise you just be blowing money left and right.
With Dan, what you were saying about Anson Mount, like so Captain Pike, I love like when they're in the zombie cage and he goes, "Hey, we need a weapon," and she pulls out her Klingon blade and stabs him. And then his reaction is after that, he's like, "Oh, I walked into that one." And I'm like, So I love that part of like humor in there with Captain Pike. That was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like what's great about a lot of our writers is they know how to like write some fun reactions and then the actors just take it to the next level because like in my head I had no idea how he would play that and then you see him doing it like, oh, of course, that's
Yeah.
great.
Okay, so there is a particular shot in this episode which I really like a lot, and I want to get your inputs on how this whole thing came about. The shot, and a matter of fact, I like it so much it's the thumbnail for this video. It's the shot where you see a little bit of a faded view of Mbenga and Pike together, looking out the cracked glass at the down shuttle that's smoking from the Klingons having just bombed the crap out of it. It's just a really awesome shot. It's very intense. It shows the surprise emotion they have of this surprise Klingon attack. And I'm just kind of wondering where if there's any particular place where that came from because I just think it was an awesome little scene.
Well, I think with a motto of most of the modern Trek shows is we always ask how can we do something in the least amount of shots,
Mm.
right? Um, not just for budgetary reasons, but also to keep it like a cinematic style. So for me, I always imagine this like, when he hears the scream and then suddenly the building starts rumbling and then they hear something like fly up above them and they run up to the window. Anytime something flies up above them, I just think of like Michael Bay jets and stuff. So I'm like, okay, so we have to like, while they're talking, we're gonna hear something, and the camera, like Matt, who is our B camera operator, you're gonna have to like drop down and hand hold it, and then pivot over like under him, and then he's gonna run over there, and then you gotta raise it up, and it's not easy. These are heavy cameras, and then you gotta chase them to the window, and then you're gonna push past them to the window, and then we have a blue screen there, and then for the planet, and then we're going to rack to the window for their reaction, and then we're going to shoot the reverse that can also serve as a plate. And so, those type of things I always throw out there, and I think the camera ops like are just so game on this show that they're just like, okay, let's do it. And like, not every show is like that, I think. I'm just really blessed on this show where I feel like they are game to do anything I ask for. So then we do this, and the economical way is essentially is to follow him to the cracks, push past him, and just hold that shot. Now, naturally, we shot the reverse in case you need to use it, but that's how that shot came to be. Is like,
Mm.
you think of the most cinematic way to shoot something and to keep with that shot, keep with the people, and stay with it.
So, Chris, we've talked many times about different shots and on shows and in Strange New Worlds in particular, uh, having reminders or vibes to us. For me, that shot out the window felt a little like Jurassic Park, where they're looking out onto a
Oh,
dinosaur or something like that,
yeah,
or you know what I mean,
yeah.
like that shot where you see the Velociraptor's face come up. And I'm not saying that's what you meant by that, Dan. It's just you have things where it's like, oh, it kind of gives me that Jurassic Park vibe, right? Where they're looking out through a broken piece of glass and there's something out there. And I just thought it was an awesome, awesome shot and a really nice touch on your guys' part.
Thank you. I mean, it's funny because like so many things come together like in entertainment to make that happen, right? Because they offered up glass, and I'm like, okay, can you show me what it would look like broken? And so then they had a
Mm.
couple, options for the broken glass. Okay, let's put that in on set, and then on the day you look at it and you're like, I think the crack needs to be a little bigger, and then suddenly a bunch of people will get in and do their magic and like make it perfectly more cracked but still dirty looking. And then painters have to paint it they have to age it. And then we have to tell the story that some of these people here tried to like board up the place. So then we were looking at how they board the windows. And then, they had sketches before, but then on the day of, you're looking at it and you're either adding a board or taking away a board or, so, and then not to mention our DP is dealing with the lighting on where they're running to and how is the light streaming from outside. So it's actually really fun. I would say like you don't get bored doing it because there's just so many things that happen just to have that kind of cracked window, light coming from the outside looking out into like the forest, Jurassic Park type shot. And then, yeah, the VFX of the spaceship coming in and blowing up their shuttle. So that was pretty fun.
It was, and
It,
I
it was
think,
awesome. That whole
yeah,
sequence, yeah.
yeah, and the reaction, because they're framed by this window, and with Mbenga and Captain Pike, and
Hmm.
both of the reactions are like completely, they're both funny and completely opposite. Like
I mean,
maybe,
that's the
yeah,
thing with Anson also. He gave
yeah,
so many funny different reactions. I think we
yeah.
had like we must have had like 5 takes of like amazing reactions. And it was just like, well, I'll put one in my cut and they can look through it and see what they want, but they're all great.
Yeah. No, they were the whole sequence, that shot in the glass, that looking out, the smoking shuttle. I mean, it was fantastic. Definitely one of my favorite shots in the episode, and there are many shots that I really like.
Cool. Yeah, one thing I'll bring up, during in this like sequence inside, we had a phaser battle with the Klingons. Just a very short, one people are on one end of the hall, other end, and then eventually the Klingons move up. So it wasn't a super long battle, but when I got that in the script, I called my DP right away and I'm like, hey, I really want, Pike and them have it set on stun, which is blue, and Klingons are on red. So I really want like light to shoot down the hallway so we can illuminate where they are because it's like scary having the black and the red kind of like illuminating and silhouettes of the guys and catching to their faces. And everyone started talking about it. It's like it's never really been done in TV Star Trek before. And we started researching about it. And yeah, usually people just do a VFX for it and just have a general overall
Mm.
lighting.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm like, well, let's do it. And again, just this crew game for anything. They're like, well, like what have you done this before? And I'm like, oh yeah, like in one of my shows, Shadow and Bone, in a movie type thing um, we had machine guns like coming down the trees, and they're like, "Oh, okay, well, we'll look at that, figure it out." And it was they just in the ceiling above the camera, they set up these lights to go back and forth, and the control light would be able to hit the switch, and we set a good timing we think would work visually. And then I just started assigning numbers. I do Simon Says sometimes for action scenes, and I think I had 13, 1 through 13 and I would just call out different numbers that each actor had to pop out and fire on, and that number would correspond to the lights, and three of those numbers would correspond to explosions at the end of the hall or in the room.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean it's on the screen for like 20 seconds or something, but it was like something that we really wanted to do and just like visually have it look a little bit different than a normal firefight.
Yeah, that's so much
It was
creativity and
awesome.
thought. Yeah, that goes into it.
Yeah.
So this episode also explores or Ortega. So yeah, Zach and I were talking that a little bit too. But so yeah, Ortega and kind of her all of what's going on in her mind. How did that come about? Like did the outcome like was that what you felt was all of Ortega's kinds of actions? Is that what you wanted to, is that you feel good about how
Yeah, I mean,
it went?
she came back. There's the whole thing after episode one, she essentially
Mhm.
thought she died, right?
Mm,
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of things she has to deal with. And, this is one of the episodes where life's short. She has to do this thing to save everybody because she knows she can't. She's not going to get herself in a situation where her or other people are going to get killed again. And yeah, she was insubordinate. And Una rightfully kind of reprimanded her for it. And you see her like, we played with that scene quite a bit on how she takes it and, how much of it does she take seriously and whether she still keeps that rebellion up. But I think it came together in a really nice place because, you see her get reprimanded, she feels bad, but there's still that edge where it's not resolved yet. And it's setting up maybe for something in the future.
yeah, that's what we felt as well. Um, yeah, go ahead, Zach. Yeah.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, yeah, I think something's gonna come to head with her insubordination. The shot that you had, Dan, on the bridge, where I think it's right after they warp away, and you have a shot, somewhat of a close up on Ortega sitting at the helm, and then you kind of I don't know whatever the technical term is. I apologize if I butchered this, but basically she becomes blurry and fades, a little bit to the background, and you focus in on Una in the chair. And I thought that was really fantastic because now you're capturing what Una is how she's reacting and kind of staring at her from her backside, and Ortegas does not see that reaction. So when Ortegas is later called into the conference room to get the reprimand, and she's all like, "Oh, this is kind of all official and everything," she's kind of taken a little bit by surprise by that. So I really thought that was a nice touch by you and the team to capture that particular moment on the bridge before the actual reprimand.
Thanks. The term's racking
Rack.
focus.
Okay, there
Yeah,
you
yeah.
go. There you
And
go. Yeah.
especially in long distances, it's great to tie people together that way because it is like, that bridge, it's not big like, Picard's bridge or, some of the Disco's bridge, but it is still a big distance you have to get across and to tie people in together. I think we're always thinking of Uhura racking to different people because she's so far away, right? She's all the way in
Mm.
that corner and everyone else is kind of like talking in the center here. And like, yeah, I think like racks are some of the most effective like bridge storytelling, along with camera movements and just like cutting to where they're looking.
Yeah. Well, it definitely worked. I thought it was a fantastic touch for that moment.
Thanks.
Yeah. Was there a scene that was most difficult other than the you had the firefight scene in the research facility, but were there any other scenes that were most difficult?
Well, the
Um,
research facility, the other room in the research facility,
mm,
when all the zombies came and then they went into the
mm,
cabinet and then
mm,
the Klingons came, like we pretty much ran out of time just as I was running saying cut because we everything in the research facility was shot over 3 days.
Mm.
okay.
So it's
Yeah.
not like we get a lot of time. And when you have a lot of like extras, things can go wrong sometimes. So like I was definitely feeling the pressure on some of them. I mean, I still think I should have like somehow found three more stunt people to run at the Klingons because I think we had like six, and it kills me that they have to be kind of stormtrooper-y for like shooting the rushing in. I mean, they've been shooting zombies like all day, like I get it. But like, when we did that, uh, we didn't have really any time. I'm like, okay, we're gonna come in and swoop behind the zombies and push past them so they can be firing off screen at zombies, and we'll be with like three. One will drop, one will get disintegrated, another one will like almost reach and get disintegrated, and the other one will jump on and bite the neck of uh Horath, was it? Or what the other one? Yeah, the
Hmm. Hmm.
the other Klingon, and then she would vaporize him. So for me, it's just like it's so tight on time, and we have like hard cutoffs on this show. It's not like some shows will be like, okay, if you have to go like 30 minutes over, like, this one, sometimes they'll let you, but other times they'll like, no, like it ends. So I'm like, okay, we have one take and we're gonna get these zombies. And like my stunt coordinator and his guys are like all getting ready, and uh, I'm walking the camera, Francois, like through the Steadicam shot, and I'm walking the actors through like where they aim, and then you do it. And then yeah, in hindsight, I'm like, I really should have just like pulled a few more extras, and their extras aren't allowed to do what stunt people do, but like you can at least have more bodies in the room
Mhm.
that like you go push past or something. So yeah, that was the hardest thing, like just running out of time on some of those bigger sequences, which is like
Mm.
painful. And I'm glad like no one like really brought it up, and they're just like, okay, whatever. To me, when I watch that sequence, I'm like, stormtroopers.
But it looks great. It looks fantastic.
Thanks.
Uh,
Well,
uh,
and let's not mistake it, Dan, because if they had been stormtroopers, they wouldn't have hit a single zombie, right? We
This is
know
true. This
stormtroopers
is
can't hit
true.
anything. So
They
we
cleared a room already right before that, so
yeah, exactly. So if they had done that, I mean, if they had been stormtroopers, the zombies would have completely eaten them alive, right? Speaking of that scene where I think there's one Klingon in particular who gets basically hoarded by a bunch of zombies and eaten. I mean, to me, I don't think it would have been a zombie episode if there hadn't been in one at least one horde of zombies like jumping on top of somebody, just shredding them to pieces. Which,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah, I
that
mean,
that was always written that way, and I think they all knew they wanted like very zombie moment. And that I think that is actually where my Walking Dead experience probably like surfaced the most. Because like, you're genre hopping and not everyone in the crew has done zombie stuff. So
mm.
everyone's like, well, what do you want us to do here? I'm like, get me some dark barbecue chicken meat, a lot of sauce. It's gonna be really dimly lit, so no one's
uh,
gonna know. Get me a couple like sprays that like, the blood can just like spray up a little into, our stunt people's mouths and stuff as they eat them. And yeah, so they basically designed the costume to have an indent so there could be a tray just for that when he's on the ground, a tray of barbecue chicken that people can be tearing at with their mouths into him.
wow.
Classic zombie stuff.
So,
Oh
so,
yeah.
so is that I mean, is it things like that that happen on Walking Dead too when you'd have that you kind of, I guess, quote unquote key zombie moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with those type of movies and Walking Dead and zombies in general is they lean into more practical stuff than Star Trek does. It was crazy going from, that show back in 2018 to now doing Star Trek because the amount of visual effects is way more in sci-fi. I mean, it's not
Mm,
even close because over on Walking Dead, they would try to minimize all the special effect shots. So
Mm.
everything they tried to do practically. It was like zombie prosthetics. When zombies like eat people, it would be like tears in like prosthetics or like little fake meat stuff that you would put on people. And it's just so even like well, gunshots, they would shoot blanks. Like it was so much of it was practical on The Walking Dead. And it was the spirit of the old movies, Romero, all of the old like horror movies, especially like the B movies. Like everyone kind of faked it, but made it visceral. So I think that's what helps in those horror moments is you're not fully digital. It's like something feels real. And I think it comes off to the viewers like it feels gross and real.
yeah.
Hmm.
Well, folks, you have heard it here first. Klingons taste like chicken. Apparently, that's just we know barbecue. Sorry, barbecue chicken. They taste like barbecue chicken. We always thought, Chris, that the tribbles were the other white meat, but apparently not. Apparently, Klingons are.
Well, I know, like I learned a lot about zombies.
No
Yeah, this is
joke.
excellent.
No joke. Yeah.
So were all in this episode, were all of the zombies, um, they were all like practical zombies, real people?
Yeah,
That
they
was
had essentially five or six that had like really detailed prosthetics that
huh?
could be close to camera. And then you had a couple in the background in kind of masks, which is also what a lot of zombie movies do. You have like your foreground hero zombies, then you have like your background ones that can't really move their mouths, but because they're so deep in the crowd, you don't notice it. And then the deep background is just kind of like painted face, like with some like light makeup or some details of plants, but you don't want them on camera.
Okay. Okay. The introduction scene of where we first see the first zombie face was creepy. I think very effective. I think Mbenga is seeing this, and there's this figure in this face in the grass, and it turns, and yeah, that creeped me out. That was very effective in terms of
Well, that was again the very last day. I was running between setting up a unit to shoot that while we were running into the room as the Klingons were shooting zombies, and it was literally at the exact same time because I'm like, okay, we're gonna have these lights. Someone just wave lights this way and wave that way over, and then I'm just talking to the zombie X stunt person and saying how they would move their head, and then they would do that, and then I'd run to the other room, and then they would go in to do the Klingon thing. So I'm glad it made it to the cut and because it is like very creepy, but it is one of those things when you're doing it's like, ah, hope it works. Let's go.
nice. Nice.
I agree with you, Chris. It was very, very creepy. And I like the way you lit it because you look at it and you're like, that is that some kind of creature moving there? Is this some kind of new, alien species that we don't know about? And then all of a sudden you get the first look at a zombie and you're like, oh, this is a zombie episode. Okay, got it. We know now. Got it. Okay, Dan's directing this. This makes complete sense now. But yeah, it really did. I want to go back. You mentioned, and Chris also brought up the question about the practical zombie effects. So the first really, I think, I don't know if you agree with me, Chris, in this. The first really creepy thing we see on Kenfori after we get there is the Klingon skeleton that is revealed underneath some brush or some leaves or something like
Mhm.
that. That was really fantastic. It was really well done by, I'm assuming the prop department would have done that. And then also the severed leg with the bone sticking out
Oh,
and
that was
everything.
gross. That was really gross. I
That
mean,
was
we all held it and we were just
nasty.
like, this is gross, but it'll look great on camera. So
It really did. And I think, in fact, I think you posted a picture on social media of you holding the boot with
oh yeah,
the.
no, it was Bill that posted
Oh,
that
Bill
one.
posted. That's
Yeah,
right. Bill
yeah.
posted it, but you were holding it, right? I think
Yes.
that in that picture you were
All,
holding
all
that
of all
thing.
of us had a turn with it.
Yeah. So, was that specifically the skeleton and the severed leg and the boot? Was that something that you had directed to have done, or was that something the prop department just came up with in order to be a part of the
Well,
scenes?
it was in the script
Oh,
because
okay.
it was, the Klingon skeleton was a call to action, right? Like that's the first time like you're in a horror episode because like everything before that scene, you can just be like, oh, they're just like going to explore. They're talking about like all the ex-wives, like
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
and fly
yeah,
fishing.
yeah. And it's just like, yeah, this is gonna be like, I don't know what it is. And then you see they open the leaf and you see the first full Klingon skeleton in Star Trek history.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
previously,
yeah.
so Ron Moore had a book of Next Generation where they had this diagram of a half Klingon and a half skeleton, right? And it was like this 2D diagram. And then on Enterprise, Dan Curry took that and made it into a painting. And then I think the Okudas and some other people took it and put it into the screen. And because I was looking for in the script, it called for a Klingon skeleton. So I started looking like researching what does it look like? Where does it come from? And then it took a while, and I finally found some people on a forum talking about it in an episode of Enterprise, but they didn't say which one. So I was watching like all the Klingon episodes of Enterprise, and I'm like, I don't see it, I don't see it. And then it was like in the very corner of a screen, like I don't know, like it'd be this small, like just in the
Mm.
background where you see it in like with the Klingon medical officer. And then I was like, oh, that's the screen. Because I thought like maybe there was something more that they did that we can learn about it. And no, that it was basically like taking Ron Moore's book and that picture and just like put it essentially making it, I think, 3D a little bit and then putting it on the screen. So I'm like, okay, so we're gonna do a Klingon skeleton. And then people are like, do you have an idea of what you want it to look like? I'm like, well, actually, it came from this episode and it looks
Mm.
like this. And I was like, oh, cool. So then, everyone, uh, all the people that needed to work on it got to work and they started like updating us with like, the skeleton. And then finally on the day it was there, and then they're like, oh yeah, we can like rip the rib cage apart however much you want. So then you get to like, I mean, the fun part of being a director is you can like go in there and just be like, yeah. So it was like, oh, is that it? They're like, is that enough? I'm like, oh yeah, that looks really good. Let's just like rip it a little bit more open because the camera's gonna look this way. So yeah, it was cool. I mean, every time I do one of these, it feels like you get to be a part of Star Trek history, right? So it's it's cool, especially like the honeycomb like rib cage, right? That's so different, and I'm glad it made it to the screen as an actual like bone instead of just on a monitor.
Yeah, for sure. Going back, Chris, to the vibes we get when we watch episodes and kind of the feels, and
Hmm.
because I would say like, okay, you see the Klingon skeleton, you're like, okay, something's awry here, right? Something's not going on. We haven't quite crossed over to full horror yet because we haven't got zombies, but I saw that, and then I'm thinking like the bones, and we're in the forest, and I'm starting to feel like Indiana Jones a little bit. Like there's
Mm.
some kind of mystery here that needs to
Yeah.
be explored and figured out. Like they're not treasure hunting, but they are on a hunt for something, right? They're on a hunt for the
Yeah.
Chimera flower to help Batel. But I definitely had felt a little Indiana Jones when they saw the big research facility and the bones. Did you feel that way at all, Chris, in
Little
that
bit,
particular part of the scene?
little bit. I got the for Dan, I got the vibe of Jurassic Park 2 when they're going on the island and there's all the abandoned research facilities.
Yeah.
So I got that too. And then I think like Dan, you were saying about part of Star Trek history. I think now you've got this precedent, like the Chimera is there, that the effect of the Chimera, and yeah, you might have more zombies like in the future. Like this could be the this is this is the pivotal first like true zombie with a Z, like Star Trek. So this could be like this is it.
Could be.
We're starting.
Well,
Yeah.
also, with like the Indiana Jones thing, the next scene is when they enter into the big room, right? And then
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
he's pointing at something and hears something, and then we pan the camera over just as like dust comes down from like the walls, and that's like a very kind of adventure, like spooky uh thing that happens. So,
It definitely gave me Indiana Jones vibes for that part of it. Absolutely. Uh, the zombie thing I find very interesting because, Chris and I have talked a lot about sci-fi and horror crossovers, and some good, some not so good, and I think the Enterprise episode Impulse that we really liked a lot, I think really worked because the way in which they treated the zombie type feel and the way it was shot. And I think this one does too. I really do. I think this episode could very well go down as the best episode of season three.
oh,
Um,
there's
eh,
some really good episodes coming up, guys. Just you
no,
wait.
well, I know there is. I know season three is packed full of good stuff, but everything that I have read as I was doing some more research before we had you on for this, Dan, and did our weekly review of Strange New Worlds, every single thing I've seen online, all the feedback has been nothing but positive and good stuff. Everybody felt like you guys did such a great job with the Mbenga storyline and continuing that arc from Under the Cloak of War and the way in which it was addressed. So I think, directing, writing, The cinematic feel that I think it sounds like you were going for in this episode. I think all of that came through, and it just came together in such a great way. In the treatment of it, that I wouldn't be surprised if future Star Trek conventions have some zombie Klingon shirts running around somewhere, because I certainly could see that being a future cosplay.
I mean, I really want to see someone like make Biffa's whip because that is cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that whip was awesome. That I We hadn't seen that before, right? Was this is the first time like a Klingon whip like uh, weapon? I'm thinking.
I
I
think
don't.
so. I mean,
Yeah, I don't
The
remember.
Ferengi and TNG had those like electrical whip things that were really bizarre and strange because they were these really weird, creepy space pirates before they became Quark and all them. But I think you're right, Chris. I think this is the first time we've seen a Klingon. We've seen a lot of Klingon weapons. I don't know about a whip before.
Yeah, I mean, this whip was pretty deadly. And just to be like transparent, it was all CG.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
So, her like co the piece that was part of her costume was always, designed to be that way. And then it was kind of like, okay, well, how's she gonna unsheath it? And there was a lot of discussions about unsheathing it. And I'm like, well, we need to get a low angle hero shot where she can like unsheath it and hit almost the camera. And so that's kind of her like big whip introduction. But then it was great because she practiced with a real whip so that she could like get the right snap to like hit the zombies coming at her and that type of thing.
Interesting.
I think someone's going to definitely cosplay her.
Oh, yeah.
Thinking through that. Yeah, I like what she's got.
Yeah, I mean, she came in and did so good because she came in even during prep knowing the Klingon
Mm.
already. And I'm like,
Oh,
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 wow.
wow.
wow, that's like, okay, you're doing the Klingon already. And then, like, oh, so you're going to be in this fight scene. We want to get you, like, a bunch of rehearsals so you can, practice. And she's like, oh, yeah, I'm down. And, every time, I think they had 5 rehearsals, action rehearsals, but I would just be heading towards lunch and in the stunt room her and Neil or whoever else he had trained her would just be practicing. Like it was great.
Can you talk a little bit about how the practice and the choreography went on the knife fight? Because that was wonderful. They're attached by this band of cloth, um and there's multiple camera angles, and you see it from above, and there's a lot of movement, um, and I thought it came out great.
Thanks. I think it started with the concept of they needed to be attached. And at first
Yeah.
it was like, is it like a wrist like thing that attaches to a leather? And so we, on my first day, like right before lunch, I go into the stunt room with our team, and when they start showing me like different ways, and some ways are more dangerous than others. And so we came up with how they're just like wrapping it around their hand and holding it that way because the worst thing you want to do is like tear off an actor's arm, right? So,
Oof.
it's kind of like when you just write it out and just like conceptualize it without thinking really hard, you're just like, oh, of course they're connected by like this leather seeped in the blood of some Klingon, right? And but when you're actually doing it with moves, it becomes quite difficult and it gets in the way of certain moves and blocks, but at the same time it gave us a good storytelling tool because in the beginning we wanted her to attack him and him to kind of not really want to do it, like he doesn't want the monster to come out, and he
Mhm.
even kind of like he'll do it because she's threatening Pike and him, and he doesn't go all out. Then when she gets that first like nick on him, then he gets a little bit more upset, and you see him starting to pull at the leather and starting to do moves. So, that's when our team got together in the stunt room, we always talked about like, where do we take this fight? When does he become the aggressor? When does she become the aggressor? What happens? Uh, and then because I knew what side of the stage I wanted to shoot on, then we could highlight moves that was because they always have like some choreography in their head they prepared with stunt people, and then we'd go in and I'd say, okay, so the camera's going to be over here. They're like, oh, well, then that move doesn't work. So we'll come up with a different move. And then so, I love working with stunt teams just because you get to really see them like do their magic as you're pointing the camera, and they're like nothing actually hits a person unless it's like a body hit and they react. So all of like the punches and everything they have to play to camera. So, it's a lot of rehearsing. It's when does he pull the leather over and punch her in the face, and then he has the knee to get the knife out of her hand. But before that, she I think stabs the console while trying to stab him,
Mm,
right? So we have to tell the story that some in the middle of the fight, the force field doesn't break completely, but gets on its way to being broken.
mhm,
So I think there's like every fight we do, we try to tell a story in it. So she is angry at him, she starts attacking him, he's not taking her seriously, then it causes the monsters to start coming out. He gets upset and he starts pushing her away, and then they start doing this fight, and she finally, attacks and hits the console, and he needs to end this now. So he does a hip throw. And the hip throw was very much during rehearsals Mbanga's request because he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
mhm.
So it's like, I don't remember if it's a request or if it's the stunt people saying he could totally do this, one or the other. But like, that was him throwing her stunt double. Like sometimes for those bigger moves, like you get a stunt double actor to throw someone else, but like he was just good at fully just throwing the Klingon with armor and everything down onto the ground. So, and then of course, we want to get him above her, and then we're like, oh, is it going to come out? Is he going to kill her? And then he like hits next to her, and he's like, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to not give in to my old self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dan, that's incredible. And he was he was in Dune. Dune?
He he
Was he in
he,
the
what
movie?
he is in Dune. He's
Yeah.
like the narrator, and he's
Yeah.
also has a knife fight
It
with
was a knife fight. Yeah.
yeah, and which he loses. So this one he wins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I was
He's one
thinking
for
about
one.
that.
Or one for
Yeah.
two.
Just to I mean, I want to say like this knife fight was awesome, and I'm just be really proud of it because they're connected by, I mean, it's a very intimate fight, and they're connected by this piece of cloth, so they're connected physically and like figuratively by her father. Um, and they're talking about the monster in Mbenga, and they're literally surrounded by monsters, with
Yeah.
this knife fight. So it was just incredible to see and listen and hear like how you guys set up, and it was wonderful, masterfully like executed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and to Christine's credit, Baitha, she never really did knife fights before. So I think their first
Hmm.
rehearsal was just teaching her how to slash and a knife.
Wow.
So
Well, the
and
rehearsals helped. They
they
were
do.
they were great.
But you could tell, like, as we were doing it, it's not easy doing it over and over, and people get tired. So often
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, we need like a 5 minute break because like everyone needs to catch their breath.
Yeah. I want to talk briefly, or have you talk briefly about the music in this show. Nami is absolutely incredible at leading the music composition, and I'm wondering on Strange New Worlds, how much interaction do you have with her and her position and working the music in with those scenes that you're directing? Because obviously you're directing, you're making the script come to life. So what's that process look like? Because I have just been, and Chris and I have talked about this before on other episodes, talking about Strange New Worlds, about just the incredible work that Nami's doing. And it's just been unbelievable.
She is incredible. And the interesting thing, though, with television is, as for me, we go in and the editor will temp in some music and I'll have notes on it. And sometimes I'll ask for a different track. And we'll basically give like a guideline for the episode so that producers can watch it and get a feel for what they're feeling in the music. Then Nami comes in, like, either the guideline helps or she completely takes it to the next level. And
Mhm.
that I am not privy to in television because the director goes away by then.
Mhm.
So, it's really all credit goes to her and Henry Alonso Myers and Akiva, where they're just kind of, you know, in it months later. And she's just crafting these beautiful tracks. And, I think sometimes they get full orchestras to score, maybe. I don't remember. But yeah, they just do their thing. And then I kind of watch it when it comes out, or sometimes a little bit before, but it's like, okay, yeah, go Nami. Nice job. Sometimes on episodes, I'll need a specific moment of music, and then she'll write something essentially like on the night before. And so this,
Jeez.
no, I mean, like a week before, but she'll like, I'll ask for something, and then the next day she's like, "Oh, I wrote this thing. I think it fits it pretty well." I'm just like, "Okay, that's amazing." But yeah, normally it's a much longer process that happens much after our cut is turned in.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious on that kind of interactive piece between a director and a musical composer on a show like this, because everything just seems to fit so well, and that music just really brings things to an even higher level than what it already is, right? Like Chris, we
Yeah.
were talking about during the season finale of season two, and then the season premiere of season three with the hegemony part one and two, and that. Not only is there, I'm sure, a ton of original music that she's making and helping compose, for the episode, but then there's the callbacks to TOS and that Gorn music from Arena, and this the inner workings of everything is just so incredible. And the music in this episode, Shuttle to Kenfori, was nothing shy of brilliant as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I would love to like get a chance to work with them more, but that's for more, I think, the film space.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, it's okay. It's good to know like kind of what that process looks like and sounds like.
Yeah, but those nuanced callbacks are so effective in here too. So
Yeah.
enjoy listening to that.
Yeah, I mean, they do musical callbacks. We do lots of visual callbacks.
Yeah.
Just bring stuff in that happens in the future or Enterprise if they do way back stuff.
Did you see the Easter eggs, Chris? Did you see them?
Saw them. This time
Okay.
I saw them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who yes, Dan. Awesome. Like the both the NX-01 and the Phoenix, they're there.
hmm
Yeah.
So, that's really, I think, a big team up between our production designer and our set dressers. And, I think everyone is such a huge fan of the franchise that you're always getting these fun Easter eggs. And sometimes, like, they don't even tell us. And we're just there, like, oh, that's cool. And they're like,
Oh,
oh, yeah, we
cool.
did this thing. It's like, came from this. And you're like, nice.
I was curious. So I'm glad you brought those up, Chris. You like, I mean, our minds are linked, and we're not even Vulcan. And so, because that conference room scene where Ortegas gets up from the table, right, and she's walking out, and I think Una says something, and she stops and turns around, and they talk again, leaves, and the way you framed it in that shot where you see Ortegas right there on that left side of the screen, there's the NX-01 from Enterprise. So I'm assuming that was intentional to make sure you get that in the shot.
No, it was just a better frame than what else I could have done.
Well, I'm glad you did because we love Enterprise. And it's such an undervalued and underrated show still to this day in the franchise. So I'm glad that you got that Easter egg captured in that scene because it was awesome.
Right.
Absolutely was. Do you have like on this episode itself, is there any personal favorite scene that you have, or is it all like
Well, I
equally
mean,
your
I
favorite?
think like the Pike and Batel scene at the very end
Oh
is
yeah.
just,
Yeah.
like I said, working with Anson when you do some of those bigger dramatic scenes, it's essentially why most directors go to learn to be directors, right? You have two actors giving it their all. There is like high stakes emotionally. They take it into different levels, and then one he comes at her, then she like defends herself and stands up for herself. Then he
Yeah.
goes away, and then he kind of realizes it's his problem that he's doing this, and then he kind of opens up to her, then she opens up to him, and then they're kind of at a impasse, like they don't really know what's going to happen in the future. But just like there was so much to play with in this scene that I think it's just like very rewarding. Getting to work on a scene like this and getting performances that you either expect or you didn't expect. But either way, it's like, you just get to play in this space. And that's really what, like, I think the core of directing is about.
Mm.
That was beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, that was an intense scene for sure, and I found myself definitely getting choked up and emotional in that moment because you can kind of see Patel's side of things and why
Hmm.
she chose to make the decision she did with and not tell him, and you can absolutely understand Pike's side of the story, right? About having these deep-seated emotions for her and caring so much about her, and feeling like you were left out of it and you weren't given that opportunity to be a part of in essence, a life altering decision. I mean, you're talking about pretty much kind of messing with her genome and making her more Gorn ish,
Hmm.
which is a bit of a scary thought there, Chris. I don't know that I'd want to be part Gorn myself, but
I found my mind wandering. So like when I was accepting that she was going to be a human Gorn hybrid, I found my mind like wandering, like going, I wonder what she's going to like look like. Like either like later on in this season or next season, assuming she's in be there. I was like, oh, I wonder if her like physical appearance is like going to change and what is she going to like look like as a Gorn hybrid? And I just had my mind like picture like some like green highlights like around like her face or something,
no,
something like
no,
that.
no, no Gorn rubber suit. None of that from
No.
TOS coming into play with the scantily dressed walking lizard, you know. Um, So Dan, one another thing that kind of had vibes for me from this episode as a whole, and I think it's simply because the way in which the Klingons and the Federation colonists become zombies via this moss, this genetically altered moss of some kind, and being exposed to it in the air. Uh, it very much felt a little like The Last of Us because of the mushroom spores and everything
Hmm.
that infect humans and so forth. I don't know if you had conversations with the writers or not, but I don't know if there was any, you know, Last of Us kind of, feels to it, or if that was something where they're like, yeah, we've seen Last of Us, and this is kind of a great idea to create zombies out of this or not.
Well, I think they were very like surprised when Last of Us came out because I don't know how the timeline matches up, but I'm pretty sure they wrote this episode before the premiere of Last of Us.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good to
But
know.
like, and I'm not sure they played the games, but
Yeah.
someone might have.
Mm.
But it's definitely like to me, it's like, oh yeah, hey guys, this other HBO show has some mushroom spores.
Yeah. I mean, that's really what
Yeah.
it when they
Yeah.
when Dr. Mbenga's at the computer, right? And they're
Yeah.
in there and he's talking about this moss that never actually dies. It just goes into
Hmm.
hibernation or whatever the word was. And he's talking about how they were all infected and so forth. I'm like, oh my gosh, this sounds a lot like The Last of Us. I'm not saying they would have taken the idea from them necessarily, but maybe some kind of inspiration if the timeline had, worked out. But if they wrote it before Last of Us, then they got there first.
Well, I mean, the game was out already, so
Right, right,
I
right.
think like it's just I think I read something about like when Walking Dead was very big, there was like some Florida person who was foaming at the mouth, and they were like speculating what could have happened to him. So I think it's very much in the
Oh.
consciousness of like zombie fans to like understand it's like could be a fungal infection, and Last of Us
Mm.
really did a good job showing that. I mean, like that first game and season one was just like, whoa, that was
Yeah. Have you
crazy.
watched season one, the season one of the show?
I have. It's great. Have not watched season two because I also wasn't too into the second video game as much.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, the first one, like, really, really beautiful storytelling and filmmaking. But yeah, I think like, to have running zombies, there's a pretty much limited things you can do, right? It's like, what, 28 days later to the rage virus.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then Last of Us has like the fungal infection. So, at some point, we're going to be pulling something from somewhere
Yeah.
to have running zombies. I mean,
Well,
it's also funny because, like, when 28 Days Later came out, it's the same year that the Walking Dead comic book came out.
oh,
Oh.
I
And
didn't know
both
that.
feature people that wake
Oh.
up in a hospital room, like, and suddenly
Oh.
zombies have taken over, essentially, are taking over.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just I don't I don't think because it's crazy to me that they both came out in the same year because I don't know if people understand this. It takes a long time to develop and to make something, right?
Yeah.
So they're making it on their own paths. It's not like someone just saw something. It's like, I'm gonna get this out in 2 months because like it's cool. It's like
Yeah.
both of them, both creators like went years probably like in this path, and then somehow they ended up with very similar stories.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I always found fascinating watching, I never played the video games, but watching season one of The Last of Us was the prosthetics and the makeup and all the things with the spores and the stuff coming out of people's faces and the way they made these zombies look was just, I mean, bar none. It was incredible. And I mean,
Mhm.
obviously the makeup work and everything on Walking Dead was amazing too. And so was The Last of Us. And I really think, and Chris, you can chime in this too, please. The makeup and the prosthetic work and everything that went into making the Klingon and the human zombies in this episode, I think, was also incredible too. I mean, they were really, really good and scary as hell.
Yeah, they
Mhm.
really leaned into like a lot of the moss look and just dressing our hero zombies like with some of the aged moss and wounds from like just age and mess probably bumping into things really.
Can you imagine if like now in Star Trek, I don't think they've done this in Star Trek history yet, but could you imagine if they beamed one of those zombies up to the Enterprise? That'd be messed up, man. That'd be
My
no
I
question
mean,
bueno.
though,
would it be? I mean, it depends how ready they are for like disasters, right? Because if
Yeah.
that happens, you can kind of just like as soon as a zombie bites someone or like attacks someone, you can just beam both of them into like the buffer or something.
sure.
And
Yeah.
Well,
I was
my,
like, beam them away, get them out.
yeah, right. Well, my question would be, A, would the biofilters in the transporter filter that out so that the zombie wouldn't beam in? And then number two, Dan, you just mentioned the zombie biting somebody. We all know, as our namesake of the podcast, that the random red shirt would be the first person bit by the zombie, right? That it would be some rando red shirt at the transporter helm doing the thing. All of a sudden, this thing comes running at him. He gets bit because you're not going to have a phaser on duty operating the transporter. And there
Mhm.
you go. The random red shirt would be the first person to die, Chris. The first person to be infected. And
Transform.
that's
Yeah.
exactly it.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Um, Another question I had was there's a scene in the down on Kenfori in the research facility where I think you mentioned this earlier, Dan, where Pike sets his phaser to overload and then it explodes. Was
Mhm.
that also a difficult moment to capture from uh, a directing and a practical slash visual effects standpoint?
No, I mean, I think like things like that you have to plan well ahead of time because it involves so many things. So, we talked the first week there of like I remember Bill showing me the TOS episode where Kirk or it might have been Onitra showed me, Onitra or Bill, maybe both of them, where Kirk threw the phase he set it to overload and threw it
Mhm.
down the chute, and then him and Spock just like glued themselves into the wall in the hall as you hear like an explosion down the chute. And so they're like, well, we really wanted to see, that in action. Like, and I think the rationale is that like all these zombies start coming in through the window more and more pour in, and they don't have time to do like shoot them one at a time with a phaser. And so Pike gets this idea to just like, or did Mbenga ask him? But they overload the phaser and he throws it. So I always imagine in my head, well, first, anytime we do something with a phaser, I want to see it do something, the phaser do something. So it was like in Picard in season three, I remember when he sets it to kill and shoots the changeling. And
Yeah.
I have this like when Ed Spieler and I have this close up of like switching it, and the props team did a great job of like actually showing that switch, and they're like, oh, we're really excited to like show this on camera. I'm like, great, so let's like and then it changed color, and then he shot him and he vaporized. So I just love like moments that tell what the phaser is doing visually. So I'm like, okay, well, let's have Pike do something with the phaser and then he has to toss it. So we did that in one shot. Then it was like, okay, what does our VFX and stunt coordinator need to tell this explosion? And so, we had essentially different layers of zombies that would be affected by this explosion. The outer layers wouldn't really be affected but knocked back. Then the inner layers just like have it vaporized instantly. But to do that, you still have to have everyone get affected by a shockwave. So we had as many stun people as we could in that room on pulleys. And then as we would have them reenact that moment of coming in through the window, and then all the stun people, the rigging people would pull the pulleys and they'd all fly back. And we had some barrels go across the room and all this kind of stuff. Um, yeah. And then so that was always planned. You just have to have a very careful schedule to be able to pull it off. I wouldn't say those things are difficult. I would just say those things would be difficult if you didn't conceptualize them early.
Mm.
Yeah.
Have we seen Chris? Have we seen an actual phaser uh overload on camera in Star Trek before? I know they've done it and then they've cut over to the characters like diving away or something, but I don't know if we've actually seen the phaser go off like we do in this episode.
I don't recall. I just
I don't
I
either.
remember that overload scene from the original series where
Hmm.
it's like behind this panel and you see the silhouette of the phaser like overloading. So I think this is great. I will what got it's kind of like what popped into my mind when I first saw this phaser overload and Pike does it. It's so very quick. It's like a very quick moment. It says overload the phaser and throw it. And so this is what popped into my personal mind was like, oh, I personally would be need to be very careful because I might like accidentally overload it and then it would explode and where I was, why I wasn't working with the safety on the phaser for very well. So that's that's what I thought. Um, Dan, this is just like it's such an outstanding episode. Like thank you. And I think just be like super proud of this piece of work. Are you I was curious about like your future work, and we don't know like what you're allowed to talk about or anything, but is there anything like that you've got in the near future or that you're working on that you're really excited about that you can share?
The next thing that will be airing that I did will be For All Mankind season 5.
Oh, nice.
And I love that show and I love that group of people to death. I mean, it's I was a huge fan of season 1 and 2 and I got an interview for season 3 and I've been on it since then. And so essentially that's kind of my other part of the year is really For All Mankind along with Trek stuff. So there's some stuff coming up in season 5 that's just like ridiculous. I mean, epic, dramatic, all in the best ways. Um, and some new actors that people will really respond to that are fans of the show. And then, of course, Strange New World season 4, it's crazy that, like, it wrapped the other day. I think what, Friday it wrapped.
Hmm.
Um, and it's, you know, love the work on there. Can't wait for you guys to see the rest of season 3, though, because
Yeah.
my favorite episode in season 3, no press has seen yet
Mm.
because they gave the first 5 out. So yeah, there's on the second half is one of my favorite episodes. And they do such a great job on the show. And I think season 4 is very, very strong. And I'm quite excited about my season 4 episode. There are red shirts in it too.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. And now, obviously, you can't tell us anything about it. If
Yeah.
there's red shirts in it, we would maybe assume one of them dies. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. So far, Chris and I have made it through every one of our episodes without dying and having anything happen to us, and we're red shirts, so that helps a lot as well. But that's awesome. I mean, I'm excited for that. And we're hoping, fingers crossed, because you wouldn't be able to tell us anyways. We're hoping there's going to be some Dan Liu directed Starfleet Academy episodes in the future, which would be awesome to hopefully see in any other future Trek projects as well. So we are
Yeah, I'm
very much
excited to like see what the trailer for Starfleet Academy because they have a teaser, but you don't really know much. It was kind of like a character intro teaser, right?
yep.
So I'm like, what are they gonna say about it and what story are they going to show you guys? And
I have many questions from that teaser trailer, as I'm sure many others do. Like, for
yeah,
example, the female, I think it's a female officer on the staff at the academy, looks like she's a Jem'Hadar, and it's like, but there's no female Jem'Hadar. So what's going on? A lot of questions that hopefully will be answered. But yeah, Dan, thank you so much for doing this. This was awesome. I mean, another home run episode from you and your crew again. It was just awesome to watch. I'll say it again. I think this will absolutely go down as one of the best episodes of season three. Even if there's another episode that I know you said you really like, I definitely think this will be one of the best from season three. And this is certainly one of my favorite from the series so far.
thank you, thank you. I mean, I've been really lucky with some of my episodes because it is even our season one episode Memento Mori that was like really fun to do, and it's just a great series. I just like I'm glad there's a show like Strange New Worlds out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the series is, yeah, it's blessed to have you be
Thank
a
you.
part of it. Absolutely
100%.
is.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing that they had you in the wings, having already directed other episodes, because when this episode came up, they're like, well, of course it's going to be Dan, right? Because who else is going to do this? I mean, seriously, the way in which the zombies were, and I can't say it enough, the way in which the zombies were treated and the way it was filmed and the seriousness of it, the drama of it. Because like I told you when I sent you that message, I said I laughed, I cried, and I jumped all in one episode of Star Trek that was, under an hour. And you don't get that in every Star Trek episode, especially all three. So I just think it was so well done, and we were thrilled to talk about this with you. Thank you for the insight. And I know people who are watching and listening to this all over the globe and the interwebs, Chris, will very much appreciate Dan's inputs on this for sure.
Right. Well, happy to be here, and thanks for listening, everybody, and watching.
Of course, yes, and since you're directing season four, well, as long as you're free, we'll have to have you back for your season four episode to talk about that because this was a blast.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everybody so much as always for watching and listening. Be sure to go on to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, unless you're watching us there already, Threads, all that good jazz, and check us out there for more info. And again, we thank you so much to Dan Liu for joining us on his episode, Shuttle to Kenfori. So take care, everybody, and we'll catch you next time right here on the Random Redshirt Podcast.